trade deadline is just a little over a week away, and it's creeping up fast. And the Bulls' plan, well, it might be shifting right in front of our eyes, because now the word is that the Chicago Bulls aren't just listening to trade offers, and they're not looking to be sellers. They're actually looking to make trades that improve their playoff chances at the deadline. That sounds good until you realize how dangerous it is if you lose too much cap flexibility heading into the offseason. We're going to talk about that, plus a rumored 4-team trade that includes the Bulls getting Ben Mathurin, Yves, Missi, and Kevon Looney. We'll talk a little bit about that. Bobby Marks may have done a big one in this one. We'll talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content today. And I want to be clear here, right? Anybody who all your thought process is, oh, the Bulls aren't going to do anything because like the dude that uses the Slimer, Avi, people like that. Just sit this conversation out. If you like, I'm all for a varying of opinions, but actually have an opinion, not just contrary to say, oh, they're not going to do anything because they've never done anything. Actually have a fully fledged out thought. Actually say, hey, I don't think they're going to do anything. These deals don't make sense. They don't really fit in with the direction that it looks like this roster is going to go. Have an actual thought. That's just, we're gonna sit that there, right? But with that said, we got rumor coming out late yesterday that the Bulls reportedly have now chosen their trade deadline direction, and that's one that is set to increase their odds and chances to make the playoffs. So that means being sellers at the deadline probably isn't there. Now, it does not mean that they're going to hold on to everyone, because you have to give something up to get something. We actually got a 4-team trade that I actually think is one of the best trades that we've seen this trade deadline rumor season that actually makes sense for all 4 teams involved, but it does mean the Bulls giving up some things that I know Bulls fans are going to be a little bit tense about giving up, but we'll talk about that one a little bit here in a second, right? But with that said, the Bulls now reportedly have chosen their direction, and that direction being one that means gearing up and still trying to make the playoffs. Now, I already know the tanking fans are going to hate that. Oh my God, no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be tanking for AJ, even though we're well out of the place of being able to tank for that at this point in time, right? Now, I want to look at the Eastern Conference standings first to look at why the Bulls could be looking to increase their playoff chances. There right now is less than a game that separates them in the 8th seed, a game and a half that separates them in the 7th seed, 7th and 6th seed for that matter, and 4 games that separate them in the 5th seed. Now, the teams above the Chicago Bulls in the standings are the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers have been absolutely having a player in Tyrese Maxey that's been playing at an absolute MVP caliber level. Paul George and Joel Embiid have been healthy recently and actually playing pretty well. Also, to go with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey and the young players that they have there, and they right now are the upward trajectory. One thing that I always look at in the East is point differential. Point differential in the Eastern Conference usually determines where the final seeding ends up being more times than not. It's very close to that. The Bulls right now actually have the 11th best point differential in the league, which means that they would miss the play-in. So they're going to have to increase that if they want those chances, right? And so, looking at that area, I just wanted to be honest with that. I wanted to look at that, and I wanted to talk about that part of it, right? So, now gearing back in, the Bulls right now, though, are the 9th seed in the East, a spot that we're very familiar with. We look at the teams above the Chicago Bulls, the Orlando Magic, which absolutely historically have been much better than the Chicago Bulls, but are having a season where their defense is no longer legit. They have been a championship caliber defense, I feel, for like the last 2 or 3 years. This season, that has dipped off. The Miami Heat, are another team that are a good team, very well coached team, but much like the Chicago Bulls, they've been in the play-in for the last 3 years, right? So, and the Atlanta Hawks are one spot below the Bulls. So even if the Bulls cannot catch up with the Philadelphia 76ers, they would have to then increase their chances to come out of the play-in. I said it over on Locked On Bulls yesterday. I'm going to repeat it here. To me, what I want to see from this Bulls team is 42 wins is the bare minimum. like I said it, and I'm set. The expectation for me for this Bulls team, and I want to be clear, it's a low expectation. 42 wins and a playoff appearance, meaning that even if you have to go through the play-in, actually come out of the play-in now. You get 42 wins, you come out of the play-in. I think that's legitimate progress for a young team that is only going to get younger, right? So if the Bulls are gearing and trying to increase their chances for the playoffs, that means that that's their direction. They've chosen their direction. For all the tanking people, all the blow it up people, all the go another total rebuild, even though we just rebuilt the roster, that's gone. It's done. It's over with. The Bulls are going to be trying to gear up for winning. Now, there are positives and negatives. It makes sense for the Bulls because I do think the right trade to get the right pieces in here can, with how close the East is, can increase those chances, right? It would also signal, like I said, AK is actually trying to make moves that, while maybe not drastically improving the team like adding a star, but it puts you in the right position to be able to compete in that Eastern Conference and add pieces that, are likely, to give flexibility in the offseason. But there is some danger to this as well. If the Bulls do try to make moves that are more all-in moves with this roster to solidify it, and let's say you do lose too much of your cap flexibility heading into next season, then you're stuck. That's your roster. You're stuck. Now, with having $89 million in expiring contracts, $20 million in trade exceptions, seven players with expiring contracts, it's almost impossible for them to give up their total flexibility in the offseason, but there is still a chance of that. And that chance does bring some concerns that we just can't act like aren't there. So that's where it leads you with this Bulls team, where they have to make a decision on, all right, if we're going to be making this move to try to increase our playoff chances, how legitimately can we get there? And that's what remains to be seen for this Bulls team. How much can they really get there? What moves are out there to get done? We'll see. Another concern for this is that you got to keep in mind, the Pacers are down this year, but Tyrese Halliburton is going to make his return next year. Jason Tatum is going to be making his return. And while the Celtics are already second team in the East, it just means that the East is going to get even tighter. A team like the Detroit Pistons that are young can improve. The New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers both are kind of disappointing to where the preseason predictions were for them, but you still can't count them out to improve and make moves next offseason. So that flexibility, if the Bulls are cashing in some of their flexibility now, just some of it, okay, cool, it gives you more flexibility to do more things heading into next season that then you can adjust to what other teams in the East are also doing. But if you give up too much of that flexibility, you're more locked in, so you better be damn sure you're improving enough. And that's what the question now becomes about this Bulls team, right? Is that really what they're going to do? Listen, I'm not surprised by hearing that. I will be 100% honest with you guys. I'm not surprised at all by hearing that this Bulls team very well could be looking to make moves to increase their playoff chances. And nobody really should be. If you're being honest with yourself, nobody should be. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. If you're lost in the wind, if you're surprised to hear that the Chicago Bulls may be trying to make moves to increase their playoff chances, and reportedly this is that they've been encouraged by the level of play by the Chicago Bulls recently, this is all not surprising to me. Shouldn't be any surprising to you guys either. So if the Bulls are truly picking that direction, they're looking to build around this core. You better be sure of it, right? And here's the thing, right? I know people are going to say this is the same thing that happened with DeMar and Zach. The difference is you have players that legitimately can get better. Josh Giddey can still get better. Still young enough to get better. Buzelis is still getting better every step, every month. And you hope that he's going to make that big leap in the next couple of years, that he's going to make that. You haven't seen Noah Essengate yet. The hope is that Noah is going to actually turn himself into a player over the next couple of years. So those things give you a little bit more where it's like, okay, all right, cool. I think also if the Bulls are going to make an all-in flexible move, you don't want the contracts to be more than a couple of years. That way you can flex again if you need to based off how those young players have either progressed or not progressed, and you can make a decision there as well, right? So we'll see. I know this is going to be disappointing for some. It's going to be promising for some others, and we'll see what the Bulls decide to do in that case, man. We'll see if they're actually able to succeed in this. And like I said, 42 wins, a playoff appearance, that's the bare minimum for me to say that this season wasn't a complete failure. That's what you have to have. If you have another year where you are again below 500, you have another year where your record stays the same, if those things happen again, it's another failure. And it's a failure by AK, it's a failure by coaching, it's a failure by the roster that you currently have. And we'll see. That's all I can say. That's all I can put out there. We will see what this team has. I have my standard that I want to see for this team. 42 wins is the bare minimum of, and again, that's a bare minimum. I'm not saying that that's the height of what I want to see for the Bulls, but that's a bare minimum for how this season has gone with injuries and things like that. 42 wins. That's 3 more wins than what you had last year with the even younger core. That's it. That's it. If it's not that, I don't want to hear AK come talk to us and sell us on, oh, well, we're right there. We're right along the path that we think. No, not at all. You're fucking up if that's the case. So we'll see what the Bulls can do with it. We'll see if they can get, if they actually do make that trade that helps increase their playoff chances now. But that could very well mean that the trades for Coby, trades for Ayo, all those type of things aren't going to happen if they're looking to actually increase it. But we shall see. But with that said, I want to get into this trade idea that came from Bobby Marks from ESPN. It's honestly one of the best. If this rumor is to be true, and this is an actual scenario that could play out at the trade deadline, I think this is one of the best and most realistic trades that we've heard for the Bulls all season long, to be 100% honest with you, all season long. And so this one is a 4-team trade between the Bulls, the Pacers, the Pelicans, and the Dallas Mavericks, right? And so the Bulls in this 4-team trade get Bennedict Mathurin from the Pacers, Yves, Missi, and Kevon Looney from the Pelicans, right? Both those players from the Pelicans. Now, what does that do for the Bulls? Why would the Bulls do a trade built? Well, hold on. I also want to talk about so we can have the full picture. The Pacers would get Daniel Gafford, which is a center that they need, Javon Carter, expiring contract, a $9.2 million trade exception for Ben Mathurin that they have a year to use. The Pelicans will get Jarace Walker from the Pacers, Dante Exum from the Mavericks, an $8 million trade exception for Kevon Looney, a $3.4 million trade exception for Yves Missi, and a 2026 top 5 protected pick from the Chicago Bulls. That's the Bulls' actual 2026 pick. The Dallas Mavericks will get Dalen Terry, a $9 million trade exception for Gafford, $2.3 million trade exception for Exum, and a 2026 first-round pick for the Portland Trailblazers that also can convey until 2028. That's the I'm sorry, not the Pacers, the Portland Trailblazers. That would come from the Portland Trailblazers. Why would the Bulls do that? Well, A, they get their center with Yves Missi, with more big man depth with Kevon Looney, but I'm not looking at Kevon being a long-term thing there for the Chicago Bulls. I think it would just be there to match salaries. You get Bennedict Mathurin as well. What is Ben Mathurin? He could be insurance for your negotiations with Coby White this offseason, meaning if Coby White, wants too much money, or you can even use hey, we can just roll with Ben, right? You can use that as leverage. He's younger. I don't know. I would say he probably has more defensive upside than what we've seen from Coby so far. He doesn't have the scoring upside either as far we've seen Ben Mathurin fill it up too. Anyway, it provides you a little bit of insurance there where you can negotiate with Coby, and if Coby walks, cool, you move forward with Ben Mathurin as you're starting to. You still have Ayo Dosunmu there as well, which we'll get into another rumor for Ayo here in a second. And, the biggest risk in this for the Bulls is giving up their own 2026 first rounder. But if you're getting Ben Mathurin and Yves Missi, now Ben is a restricted free agent at the end of the year, so you'd also have to pay him, which adds to your restricted free agents, or your free agents you have to re-sign. But is that worth giving up a first-round pick in this draft? Here's the thing. If it gets the Bulls actually to the playoffs, maybe. Right now, the Bulls pick, if they don't make the playoffs, of course, will be a lottery pick. Are they going to make it? Are they not? We'll see, right? That's the most dangerous. I'm okay with giving up the Portland pick. The Portland pick is lottery protected. And like I said, because the West is much better, it's probably going to be between 17 and 20 if that's a pick. I'm cool giving up that for Yves Missi because I feel like that's about the caliber of player you'd be looking for at the end of the first round anyway, even with this deep draft. You see the flashes from Yves Missi, they're great, right? Why do the Pacers do this? They get Daniel Gafford in it. And I think that makes sense for them as well as a $9.2 million trade exception that they can use with Tyrese Halliburton coming back, that they can absorb salary, and they stay under the luxury tax because they are not a luxury tax-paying team, much like the Chicago Bulls. Why the Pelicans do this trade? Well, they give off some of their long-term money, right? They get trade exceptions. They get not long-term money back, and they're another team that's looking to avoid it. The Mavericks, they get a bunch of assets. They get a first-round pick back as well. And so this is a very realistic trade. It works in the trade machine, but just because it's realistic doesn't mean it will actually happen. But shout out to cooking it on this one. This is a great pick. Now, the pick being top 5 protected for the Bulls, it does protect them in case they do spiral out at the end of the season. It is what it is. The Bulls would also have to make a roster spot. They'd have to waive Julian Phillips or somebody else to make this done. We'll see, right? That then uses the expanded trade exception that they had as well to absorb some more salary also. So that's what you're looking at in this trade. Like I said, it's not a perfect one, but it is one that makes some sense for the Bulls. It doesn't completely ruin their spending power this offseason, so they still have flexibility to still add to the roster based off what they see the roster do with that one, right? You can still give Ben Mathurin an offer sheet, which is good. Well, you don't have to sign him to an offer sheet because now you have his rights in restricted free agency, which is really good for that one. And you get 2 young players in Missi and Ben Mathurin to help add to the youth movement. What has AK cherished? Young players with experience. Yves Missi and Ben Mathurin are both young players with experience on this team, right? You're giving up players in Dalen Terry and Javon Carter that just simply put aren't part of your future and probably should not be, especially if you're getting a Ben Mathurin and Yves Missi back for it. So that's a question for it. You don't have to bring back Nikola Vucevic at that point. You still have your free agents in Coby White, Kevon Huerter, Ayo Dosunmu, Zach Collins to make decisions on in the offseason as well. But depending on which players the Bulls keep, they could still have nearly $47 million in cap space, and that's including the re-signing of Mathurin and Missi. So it still gives them that flexibility. That is a really good trade for where the Bulls are. The question just becomes about, is it realistic? Will it actually happen, or is this just one of those flash in the pan rumors that we'll move on from? I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. But that's my thought process. Let me know what you guys think on that rumor down below. This is probably the most, and with it being a week before the trade deadline, sometimes those rumors that come out about a week before the trade deadline are the ones that are closest to reality of happening. But we'll see what happens there. All right, let's move into the next topic for today. Reportedly as well, this one comes from Mark Stein as well, that Ayo Dosunmu is the player on the expiring, on one of the Bulls players on expiring contracts that has the most trade appeal. No surprise there. We've talked about why, but let's read what was wrote here. I'm sorry, it was by Bobby Marks who said this. ESPN asked team executives which of the 7 players had the most trade appeal. The unanimous answer was Dosunmu. Dosunmu is earning an appealing $6.5 million salary and is averaging career highs in points, field goal shooting percentage, and three-point shooting percentage. The team trading for him will inherit his bird rights, allowing it to exceed the salary cap in a new contract. Dosunmu can sign up to a 4-year, $86.9 million contract extension with Chicago until June 30th. So this is, Mark Stein has reported similar things, saying before that Dosunmu and Coby were the most frequently talked about. So we'll see. Ayo is a great two-way player. And I think the flexibility that he has, and I say the same thing about Ayo Dosunmu all the time. What the flexibility that Ayo gives you as far as roster building, he can fit in just about any lineup. He's efficient, so he doesn't need a lot of shots to put up points, and he's a two-way player. That is something that's attractive for all teams. But I will say this, when you pair that with the earlier rumor that we talked about, as far as the Bulls making a move to increase their playoff chances, you want to keep a player like Ayo in if you're making all-in playoff moves and trying to focus on playoffs. And we've also heard that the Bulls are more likely to keep Ayo than Coby White. And they're more, that's what they're looking at. So when you combine all the rumors around, it's things on both sides. But I think that the Bulls are probably more likely to keep Ayo. This is just saying that Ayo has the most interest. Doesn't mean that that's where the Bulls' most interest is in trading him, that they're probably going to look to keep him. So we'll see what happens there. But trade rumors galore. I mean, we have one more week of trade rumors, and we will get through this, and then we'll just focus on basketball, which is where I love being the best at, is focusing on basketball. That's what I love to do. Focus on basketball. That's where my bread and butter is. I love talking X's and O's, advanced analytics. But again, we say we're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls. That means I got to bring you guys everything, even the trade rumors, and we'll see what happens there. Last topic, the Bulls do take on the Indiana Pacers today, and that's going to be an interesting game because this is a Pacers team that has already beaten the Chicago Bulls before, right? And they've done that with just simply outworking, out-hustling, and giving a damn more than the Chicago Bulls have. Is that something that the Bulls are going to avoid? The Bulls play sloppy basketball against the Lakers. Other than that Lakers game, they've been playing some really good inspired basketball here recently, and you love to see that. But when you've already lost 2 games against the Pacers, one November 29th and the other one December 5th, on my birthday, you lost to the Pacers. Go out here and get this dub. And the way that you have to do that is by outworking them from the tip-off. This is a Pacers team that is not going to go away easily. And even if you get the lead, they're one of the teams that have seen, hey, we just keep punching at the Bulls. Eventually, we can knock them out no matter what the Bulls' lead is. The Bulls have to come into this one prepared, ready, and locked in. From opening tip to the final buzzer, be locked in for this game. You played a very sloppy game, very, very sloppy against the Lakers. You cannot afford to do that with this Pacers team and allow them to get out and run. You just can't do that. So if the Bulls come into this game and play with the energy that we've seen before and don't play down to level of competition because of their record, they can get a win here. Josh Giddey His minutes restriction has been increased to 28 minutes, which is really good. You'll want to see him. I think that's good for him, his rhythm, and the rhythm of the team overall. You need that against the Pacers and against any team. Coby White is playing some of his best basketball lately from a scoring perspective. The turnovers are still a problem there. And Modest, we're going to need Modest in this game because Pascal Siakam absolutely cooks you. This is a Pacers team that is the worst offense in the league, 30th ranked offense in the league. They're 20th ranked defensively in the league. That's not a good team. That's just not. But they're a team that has beat the Bulls. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games, 5-5 in their last 10, and 5-15 in their last 20. Do not let them catch a rhythm against you, Chicago Bulls. Go out here, fight, compete, and get this dub. I'm looking at Ayo, Modest, Giddey, Coby. I need all 4 of those players to have a good game. And that's not to say those are the only ones, but I need those 4 players to be the backbone of why we win tonight against the Indiana Pacers. Go out here, fight. Go out here and compete. Go out here and act like you give a damn. You shit the bed in front of your home crowd. Go out here and still a win against the Pacers. That's a team that's struggling this year. They got your number so far, but they've been struggling this year. Make them struggle against you. Make them force to play your game. Make them force to have to deal with your pace. Attack the rim consistently. Jalen Smith has been such a good player for the Bulls here lately. We need you to be on your P's and Q's as well. That Jalen Smith modest minutes are still some of the best minutes for the Chicago Bulls. Let's get that. Let's make it work to our favor, and let's go out here and get a dub. So I hope this is what the Chicago Bulls can do. We'll see if they're able to do it, and overall, we'll see. But Bulls fans, I'm going to throw it to you on this one. If the Bulls really are leaning towards being buyers at the trade deadline, what's a move that you think helps them chase the 6th seed without trapping too much of their long-term flexibility? And if Ayo's contract does have the most appeal at the trade deadline, are you moving him, or is it the exact kind of move that you regret later and then you end up wanting to keep Ayo Dosunmu? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well for your daily Bulls coverage. We're doing it like nobody else is. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the ¡1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe, go Bulls, and always see red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.